it's it is weird being kind of thrust into a position like this, where I had never talked to a journalist before, prior to Glenn Greenwald, Laura Poitras, Barton Gellman in 2013. I had made a career as an intelligence officer, which made me really shy away from that kind of communication. And it's not a secret that most technical people sometimes have challenges in the social communication department. Um, I'm a little bit fortunate here because I think before I focused on computer science, I actually wanted to be an English major, but that didn't work out. Um, but there's really a key lesson here, and this is the fact that we have an unequal burden relative to sort of the forces that we're in friction with, that we're in tension with. Corporations can hire specialists for every single niche role. They'll have the most polished PR man, they'll have the best lawyer out there, they'll have the best lobbyists, they'll have the best engineers, they'll have the best everything because they can pay for it. Government, on the other hand, has an extraordinary privilege in terms of the deference that journalists are willing to show them. If we rewind back to 2013, it becomes very clear what a total absence of skepticism that there was. And this continues today in relation to sort of that connection, that dynamic between journalism and institution, because it looked a lot like this in 2013.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
And everyone believed it, right? Now, 10 days after that happened, Laura Poitras, the first journalist that I was able to get in contact with regarding the archive, said in her diary that was recently published at a museum in New York that she got a letter from her anonymous stranger she was in contact with, promising that she would get documents almost immediately after that happened. Almost as if that was an impetus, almost as if that was what sort of made this individual that she was in communication with, of course, was me, cross the Rubicon. And this is critical because we go, how do we transition beyond that, right? How do we move to action? We move from belief to action. And I think ultimately it comes down to understanding what your values are, writing them for yourself, thinking them for yourself. And this is increasingly becoming dangerous, particularly in many countries where we don't enjoy the same protections that we do in the United States. Because how do you develop your thoughts, right? How do you determine what it is that you truly believe? How do you determine what it is that you really want to say if you can't even keep notes safely, right? If you can't have some private space, some space for thought, some space to enjoy the product of your own intellect, to share that with people close to you who you trust, whether they're family, whether they're colleagues, whether they're sort of compatriots in your social movements. And ultimately, I think we reach a point where we have to become comfortable. We have to create a culture where people are comfortable making decisions in a vacuum, in sort of the sanctity of their own private space. And it's not that I would say I'm particularly eloquent. It's not that I would say I have special talents or training here, because I don't. I didn't graduate from high school. But because I really took the time in a situation, and I took a lot of risks. This was actually a mistake from the counterintelligence perspective. But I talked to my colleagues. I said, what do you think about this? Look at this. This shows we're collecting more intelligence on Americans, more communications on Americans in America than we are on Russians in Russia. Is this really supposed to be our division of labor? And of course they would say, yeah, that's kind of crazy, but maybe that's wrong, maybe that's not right, maybe the tool's got a glitch in it, but whether it is or isn't, what happens to people who say something about that. And it's true, obviously there are costs. Power admits nothing without a demand. And if we don't challenge them, even at cost, nothing will change. Now, that's not to say that we need to wait for sort of individuals in these perfect dynamics of circumstance. We need to constantly be pressuring power, whether it's corporate power, whether it's government power, whether it's a criminal organization, whether it's typical corruption, whatever it is, to allow us, to permit us, or more directly, to not be able to stop us from finding out what the truth of our world is and being able to apply our political beliefs, to apply our vote of action to the direction of the future of our society.